run. This is Doki Doki Literature Club.
The most terrifying game that I have ever experienced.
Now, for a little context. So at my college, we have a lounge in our dorm building. One of my buddies has his Xbox hooked up to the big TV in there. Now, we were all just hanging out, and I noticed that he had this game downloaded on his Xbox. Now, I've heard of this game before. I knew that this game had some horror elements, and I relatively enjoy horror-related content. So I brought it up, asking if we could play it just for fun as a group one day, and he agreed. Oh boy, was I in for a wild experience. If you have never played this game before, or somehow haven't heard of it within the last 7 years, let me break it down real quick. On the surface, it seems like a fun anime dating simulator. Nothing too out of the ordinary, except for the fact that it's a dating sim. However, as you get deeper and deeper into the story, you realize that this game is messed up. The amount of psychological horror that goes into this game was shocking. I knew that it was going to be scary, but I didn't know it would be this scary. Now, you may be wondering, why the heck are you mentioning this game? Didn't it come out like 7 years ago? And at that I say, yeah, it did. It's a pretty old game at this point, but there is something about it that I need to talk about. The way that they do horror is absolutely stunning. I have never experienced a game like this one before. At first, me and my friends were just having fun. We each voiced a character and went along with it over the span of a weekend, and it was great. We wrote all the poems, helped with the literature club, and went on a quote-unquote date with Öńłÿ. It was a fun experience that I got to have with my friends, even if I am far from an anime fan. I don't do anime at all. But I knew that the game would take some kind of dark twist. I just knew it. I had heard that the game got scary, I just had no idea when. And then it hit. It hit like a semi-truck. Anyone who has played this game before knows the exact moment when things went from happy and fun to absolutely dark and twisted. Sayori, the main character's best friend, was being hung from the ceiling. It was traumatic. I'd provide a full photo, but it was just too much. The music that played, the glitches that kept appearing, this moment just froze me to my seat. I couldn't look away. I was absolutely terrified. This first moment is the best way to describe this game. It took us a long time to get to the horror bits, and to be honest, I was invested in the story. The game has this way of pulling you in and luring you into this false sense of security by acting like everything is great. There are barely any signs of any horror for a long time, then boom, it hits, and you become terrified. A character that was a big part of the game is just gone, and in a very gruesome way. From then on, it just got even worse. The game restarts itself, but acting like this character just never existed. The exact same scenario replays, just without her, and you can't help but think, what on earth is happening? You just have to play along and see where it goes. And it goes so far. It slowly builds up with random bits of horror sprinkled in here and there, slowly but surely reaching the ultimate climax. The game keeps getting scarier and scarier, with each horror interaction feeling more tense than the last. These bite-sized bits of terror help yank back your attention as you keep going with the story. Then it snaps. You witness another character just die and bleed out in front of you, until there's just one left. You notice in your game files that the character profiles are completely gone. All except one, Monica. The one who had the most hints throughout the whole story. She was in control, and she only wanted one thing, you. Now, why am I talking about this game? Why bring up such an old game that has probably been talked about to death? What's the point? Well, my dear viewer, this is the point. While this game is absolutely terrifying, it is just so good. The narrative and the gimmicks of deleting game files and the way it interacts with the player is absolutely incredible. The horror element was really well done as well. In fact, it made me think about other horror games that become popular. The point I'm trying to make is, how on earth can we top it? It is genuinely, in my opinion, one of the greatest horror games to have ever existed. While I love games like Five Nights at Freddy's, or kinda enjoy like Bendy or Poopy Playtime, they just aren't as scary. Those games rely on atmosphere and mostly jump scares. And while they can be scary at times, I think their use of atmosphere and jump scares just doesn't stick with me. They are scary in the moment and make you jump out of your seat, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just doesn't hold a candle to what Doki Doki does. It's all about psychological horror. What happens in the game sticks with you for a long time. When I saw Sayori's death scene, I just couldn't stop thinking about it for hours. It stuck. And same with Yuri's death as well. Just The amount of power and emphasis that goes on into these characters' deaths really sticks with you. It is absolutely terrifying. And I love it. Horror games these days just feel too afraid to be unique. After the success of FNAF, most games have stuck to the overused trope of mascot horror. While mascot horror isn't necessarily a bad thing, it has definitely been overdone. I'm looking at you, Carton of Ban Ban. While there have definitely been good horror games released recently, I just don't find them as scary as this game. There haven't been any that have stuck with me like Doki Doki has. I really think it deserves more recognition, even if it was a viral game and everyone knew about it for a long time. Now, am I one to partake in the viral game crowd? Most of the time, no. I jumped on the Fortnite bandwagon way after its popularity growth near the beginning of its life. This game was also one that I never really put much focus on until now, 7 years later. Now, if me from 7 years ago had played this game, I would be absolutely terrified and would have probably shit myself in fear. Don't judge. I was 11 back then. But now, as a grown college student, I can appreciate horror and all that it was meant to be. And I really appreciate this game. The amount of detail and love that went into this narrative and plot really does get the chance to shine. I can't emphasize enough how well it was made. I really can't. I really do think it's the best horror game out there. Now, am I just a victim of new player bias? Maybe. But I'm also a huge FNAF fan. I watched the movie on the first day. I know most of the lore. I've played the games. I love FNAF. But the difference is, FNAF is just not as scary as it could be. It's mostly just focused around its brand name. It's Five Nights at Freddy's. Everyone loves the franchise, so sometimes they don't have to try to be too scary. Cough, security breach, cough. But Doki Doki, on the other hand, it is truly scary. The only times I was scared when playing FNAF is when I get jump scared. And even then, that's only for a second. Doki Doki is just scary all the time. You never know what'll happen next. Its horror comes out of nowhere, and unlike a jump scare, it truly sticks with you. Now, are there jump scares in Doki? Yeah, a couple, but nothing hits as hard as fear that makes you think. That makes you remember it over and over and over again. If you think about some random jump scare in a game like FNAF or Poopy Playtime, you don't think of it as being scary. But if you think about the events that happened throughout Doki Doki, then you always feel a sense of dread and terror. It sticks with you. And does a great job at it. Can any horror game top it? To be honest, I don't know. With all the crappy horror games that come out nowadays, the genre's reputation has dipped. It's hard to truly scare people in games anymore, and that's unfortunate. But what we need to do is truly make a game that is worthy of the horror genre. Something that is actually scary, and not just another crappy mascot horror game. We need developers to do their research and truly think of something that would terrify their audience. If this doesn't happen, then I'm afraid the horror genre will just dip and dip and dip until it becomes lackluster. And that just sucks. The moral of the story, Doki Doki Literature Club is not just some kawaii anime dating sim. Alright, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what kawaii means, I just kind of threw it in because it's anime related. You can tell, I'm not an anime fan. Anyways, it's a fully fleshed out horror game that draws you in and then stabs you in the heart. No pun intended. It is beautifully crafted and so well done. You cannot find another horror game like it in my opinion. I'm confident in that. If you haven't played the game before and want to try it out, then I highly recommend you do. It is one experience that you won't soon forget, or regret, unless you have some mental issues and can't handle the contents of the game, and that's okay. But for anyone else, definitely check it out if you haven't. It's been 7 years, I'm sure someone has forgotten about it. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed my first ever video essay. I'm just trying to, branch out the type of content that I make in comparison to my usual videos. But, I just felt like making this, I played this game and I just really, really wanted to talk about it. I couldn't not talk about it, So this is kind of just like a little project that I decided to do kind of like last minute. But, I think that this game just needs to be talked about, and I'm really late to the whole Doki Doki bandwagon. I just really think that it is a game worth recognition and worth admiring. And if you agree, then leave a like, leave a comment. And if you don't agree, that's okay. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. So, just thanks for watching. And who knows, maybe I'll do more of these. This was kind of fun. So, I'll catch y'all on the flip side.
What are you talking about? And keep your voice down.
Yuri would love this kind of thing. It's angsty.
Just because she's a talented writer doesn't mean, looks like I'm in trouble. I somehow struck a nerve, though what I did is beyond me.
I am so done with you.
Natsuki shoves the poem I handed her back over to me.
Take your stupid poem. If you wrote it for someone else, just don't show it to me.
Oh my god.